Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your models will practically build themselves. Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv, and we are smack dab in the middle of the month of February. And, well, one of the things that comes to mind in February is, we all know that I am a big fan of the World War II history, particularly the Pacific history. Not the specific, but the Pacific World War II history, because, well, that's where my dad served in World War II. And I've had this for a few years now. It's the Pacific. Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg did this thing together. Absolutely amazing. It's like Band of Brothers except for the Pacific. Anyway, my favorite, absolute favorite. But it covers some of the Marines, some of the actual Marines that served in the Pacific and some of the places they went. And one of the places they went is appropriate for February, and that is Iwo Jima. Flags of Our Fathers is another movie that Dirty Harry, what's his name? Clint Eastwood produced or directed or whatever he did to it, but amazing movie, and I can recommend that. But this thing here has got some pieces from Iwo Jima. And why I bring this up is y'all know that I like to build tanks, and in particularly Sherman tanks. And I've done a series of tanks from the Pacific War. And there's even some Japanese tanks I've got, and some landing craft and whatnot. So today, what we are going to look at is not necessarily my Pacific tanks, but specifically the tanks of Iwo Jima, the U.S. Shermans on Iwo Jima. I've got kind of a little smattering, a little cross-section of some of the tanks, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So stick with us and check out the tanks of Iwo Jima. The Battle of Iwo Jima was fought between the 19th of February, 1945, and the 26th of February, 1945. They anticipated it would just take a few days to take this island, but after 6,800 Americans died and over 13,000 Japanese, they found that the Japanese were savage defenders, and they really didn't want to give this up. This was actual Japanese homeland territory. This island that was stationed about halfway between Guam and the Japanese main islands. You can see there's some airstrips here, and the Japanese were sending up aircraft to harass the B-29s that were bombing Japan. It was important that we take this island so that those damaged B-29s had a place to land, but also they couldn't be harassed by these aircraft. You'll notice Kitano Point on the top of the map and Mount Suribachi on the bottom of the map. So the reason I mentioned Kitano Point is here's an M4A2 late model that was actually there on Iwo Jima. This particular tank, I wasn't sure if it was knocked out or had just been broken down, but anyway, you can see Nightmare 2, LA bound via Kitano Point. They knew if they got to Kitano Point, they had taken the entire island. So this was actually taken on Iwo Jima. Pretty neat picture there. So the kit that I built is from Italieri. It is the M4A2. It has the markings on it. You'll notice it has the high bustle turret with the late model commander's cupola and the loader's hatch. One of the things that I really like to do in my in my modeling is kind of a signature piece, if you will, is I will put a weapon of some sort on the tank. And if you'll notice on the turret here, there's a Tommy gun that I've put there, just sitting on the turret. The 50 cal, as you saw from the picture earlier, may or may not have been mounted. The picture earlier, it did not show it mounted. The trunks were taken off. The upper part of the trunks were taken off when that picture was taken. But here it is, built pretty much straight from the box, and I think it turned out pretty darn good. It's a nice looking build. And this was my representation of the M4A2 kind of later model that was pretty prevalent there in Iwo Jima and also at Okinawa. Very good build. Highly recommend this kit. It is very simple and quick to do. So I put it on a base that I took some Woodland Scenics black ballast and very fine ballast, and I put that down on a styrofoam hill that I had made and put some water, making this thing look like it was coming out of the ocean and onto land. But you'll notice on the right hand side there's a bottle, and in that bottle, well, there's some actual sand from Iwo Jima. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Sacred sand, if you will. So this particular tank is still there at Iwo Jima. And don't know if it broke down, or it looks like it was probably knocked out by an anti-tank gun of some sort. You can see that this M4A3 late model has cement that they poured on the side of it as extra protection. You'll also notice that on the front galoshes plate there is some kind of a strange gear. Well, pretty sure that that tank had a Dozer Blade on it. Very commonly used in Iwo Jima and at Okinawa was the Dozer Blade. And this particular one is an Academy kit. It is an M4A3 late with the high bustle turret, and it has the Dozer Blade. Really like how this kit went together. This is the one with the 105 gun, and I think most, but not all obviously, of these Dozer tanks were with the 105. And you can see I've put a Tommy gun here on the back as my signature, and this is a representative of one of the Marine Corps tanks there on Iwo Jima. And there's some markings on the trunking. You'll notice that the top of the trunks have been taken off, or the top of the one trunk has been taken off. And anyway, let's take a look at the front here. You can see that Dozer Blade kind of rusted up a bit. Use some effects on that. So this here is just an M4A3, standard M4A3 late that I did up in one of the World of Tanks paint schemes. So this is from my World of Tanks collection, and named it Hurricane. Again, a representative of Iwo Jima, but a paint scheme and colors that were used very late in the war there in World War II. This particular tank, I want to say it was a Dragon kit, and again, it went together very well, looked very good. A good representative for me of the M4A3 late 75 gun wet that was there on Iwo Jima. Very few of those, but there were some. The signature weapon that I put on here is really hard to see on the turret by one of the hatches. I actually put a 45, 1911 45 on there just to change it up a bit, but still have my signature on it. So I do like this paint scheme. How realistic it is, not sure, but it looks good in the World of Tanks game. Let's just put it that way. So now this tank. This one is a strange little beast indeed. It is kind of a mid-production M4A2. You'll notice it has some protection over the periscopes in the front there. But the turret on this is, well, completely different. It's a late model, high bustle, with the kind of the earlier model commander's hatch, the split commander's hatch on it. The thinking behind this is many of the M4A2 earlier tanks had to go back to depots and be repaired and things like that. And this one just happened to receive an upgraded turret, a high bustle turret, which, well, usually didn't come on these old M4A2s. They were more common to a late model M4A2 with the bigger hatch. That's why they had the high bustle to it. So this one is really kind of a unique piece. I did put the side skirts, the wooden side skirts over the wheels, because the Japanese would take poles and things and throw them right in there and muck up the whole thing by just throwing something in the spokes on these earlier model wheels. Also, with some of the smaller anti-tank guns that the Japanese would use, it was very easy to take these out, or they would even make some small mines, small explosive devices. It was real easy to get up They didn't care. They were, you know, suicidal attacks where they would put these right up in the running gear and disable a tank. So that's why a lot of these have that extra protection on the side, and a lot of these have extra protection down where the wheels are as well. And it's kind of interesting with that high bustle turret on it. Just a very different look. Again, this is one of the Pacific schemes that it's just the olive drab with some of the desert tan that was used during that time. Just the two tones. So you're getting a look at many different camouflages here that were used on Iwo Jima. And again, Iwo Jima was one of those places, there were so many different types of Shermans and so many different camouflages. Now on to a real fun picture. Not the Sherman on the left, but on the right, you can see a M32 B1 recovery vehicle used by the Marine Corps. What's real interesting is these tankers are wearing the M1941 Army field jackets. These are Marines, and they're wearing Army field jackets. Remember, this was in February, kind of a cooler weather season, so that's why they would be dressed in something like this. And many of them are also wearing U.S. Navy deck jackets during this time. Very unique to these models of the M32 is the turret is more octagonal shaped, then rounded in the front, and also they are based on the M4A2 hull. So again, these are Marine Corps units, and you can see the mortar here in the front that was used to discharge smoke. And there were a few of these used on Iwo Jima, so obviously I had to model one. And well, I used an Italieri M32 kit, but I needed the proper hull. So the upper hull actually comes from a Dragon M4A2. And well, the turret, there's not a is it B2? Yeah, anyway, there's not a Marine Corps turret out there. So I had to scratch build the turret on this as well. So there's a lot of scratch built parts to this, including parts of the boom, the trunking, of course, for the engine breathing system, the deep water wading gear. Thank you. That was all scratch built because that was for an M4A2. But again, it had to have this notch in the back because you've got that big boom. So this was a very, very fun build for me. This was a fun build that really didn't take a whole lot of extra time with all the scratch building. Speaking of which, I am working on an M4A2, it's not completed yet, that has the flamethrower in the hull that was used on Iwo Jima. So, hey, thanks for joining us.